And hello, and good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm David Bowles, and this is Bowles TV. Yes, it's BOLES, not television. Coming to you live and in person. Every weekday, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Hey, here we are. We start off with a dad joke, and if this is the way the dad jokes are going today, we're in trouble. I knew I shouldn't have ate that seafood, because now I'm feeling a little eel. If you fix the 8, it's not terrible, but the 8 kind of makes the whole joke just like, oh, not good. Hey, Commissioner Gordon says from Florida, I saw an old post I made on Facebook with a funny image of a father and child laughing out loud, and on the bottom it said, Dad jokes. Very good. I like that very much. And as Gordon invented yesterday, the new, I call them slash commands, but they're not slash commands, where you type exclamation point good morning, and then it translates it into GM, makes me laugh, made me laugh yesterday. And then I thought, well, what if Gordon types that? What am I going to say? I can't say the good night thing because that's just dumb. So I thought, oh, I'll be even dumber and invent this one. Exclamation point, hello to you. I type all that out, right? To get high. It's Friday, and we're wearing the Nebraska jersey, which will become our standard fare for when the Huskers play. It's part of your DNA if you were born in Nebraska. Even if you go to a football school, you're not really into football, but you're into the team because if the team does well, then the entire state does well. It's just a thing. So this is my latest and greatest, my Husker football jersey. I think it's from the 1980s. It's very old. It smells of mothballs. I washed it twice, and as you can see, this is a little iron-on sticker, which should be a patch that's sewn on, but it's okay, because this one is also a patch that's not a patch, but just an iron-on. This is the authentic. So I washed it again. I've washed it twice, and the mothball smell is still there, and I lost even more of my thing. But that's okay, because it's old. But from now on, I'll probably just my undershirt, have this over it, do the show, when the game's on, put it on, take it off. Because the mothballs is a little hard to swallow. And so the Huskers are in Ireland, and they're playing tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Daylight Time against Northwestern. And Northwestern is a very smart, wonderful school in Chicago. I'm hearing they don't have a very good team this year, but then who knows what the Huskers will have. The Huskers have been terrible over the last 10, 15 years. And Scott Frost won a national championship. Was very successful in Oregon, I believe, as offensive coordinator, and then went to Florida, ran his own program there for a couple of years, had some success, and they brought him back. I think, people think, maybe a little too soon to be the savior of the program. And he's had a terrible 4 years. So everyone kind of thinks if he doesn't, at least go to a bowl game this year that he will be out, and then what are you going to do when the star child comes back and can't save you? But has he been a serious star child? That's the interesting thing about Scott. A lot of rumors about his marriage and about an alleged affair he had, and some people say a love child, and other people say none of it's true. But all of that kind of yammering, that kind of gossiping behind his back, or in front of his back, makes it very difficult for the players and the people of the great state of Nebraska, it's not for everybody, to concentrate on winning the football game when you have a head coach who has a messed up personal life. But people say, his personal life doesn't matter. All that matters is if we win or lose. Well, Scott Frost just loses. And I happen to kind of know the guy, and he was sort of embroiled unwillingly and unwittingly in the whole Lawrence Phillips debacle when Tom Osborne was the head coach. And Lawrence had behavioral problems, His girlfriend at the time, they were having trouble, and he went into a dorm room, I guess, and grabbed her by the hair and pulled her down the stairs. And I guess sort of was unkind to her physically. And it just so happened that the boyfriend of the girlfriend that Lawrence Phillips was manhandling was Scott Frost's girlfriend. So did Scott Frost steal Phillips's girl? Who knows? But it was weird. And Lawrence Phillips was in trouble for that. Had a very difficult history and past. Excellent football player. And then was killed in prison later with a suicide note tucked into his sock that was not in his own handwriting. But the most interesting thing about Lawrence Phillips is that was the one thing that the haters would try to get Dr. Tom Osborne on, because he's such a religious man, a moral man, a Christian man. How in the world can you sponsor and have a monster like Lawrence Phillips on your team? And Dr. Tom would make a very interesting argument. He would say, well, if not for football, wherever he's going to play, which is a major talent, and he was a fantastic football player, running back. With his history of where he came from, poor, rough neighborhood, full of crime, where will Lawrence Phillips go? What kind of life will he have? Because you want to just throw him in prison and leave him there to rot for the rest of his life. Well, what if we, at Nebraska, gave him an opportunity to play, and we had people surrounding him who can tutor him and help him become a better person, and I will work with him and we will work with him. We try not to abandon people because they had a bad childhood or a rough upbringing. And so that was the rationale behind that. And there had been previous Johnny Rodgers, before he was a superstar in Nebraska, also had some crime problems that had to be overlooked to let him play. But Johnny Rodgers became a superstar and lived in Nebraska for pretty much most of his life and did well and stayed out of trouble. So that was the risk, the gamble that Tom Osborne was willing to make for Lawrence Phillips to try to give him a better life. And it didn't really turn out very well, but I take his point. You have a young man from a rough neighborhood, and the one thing he can do well is not beat up people. He can run a football. And if that's his way out of his rough past and his rough upbringing, who are we to judge that? All we can do is try to support him and make him into a better person, because he's already an excellent football player. And then Lawrence had the behavioral problems and the hair dragging down the steps, and they tried to keep it quiet and cover it up, but you really can't cover anything up like that. So I think he was suspended for a couple of games and then was brought back in to win the football game. It was not a good look for Dr. Tom. It was a good look for Dr. Tom because he looked like he was doing the right human, in his mind, Christian thing. And then at the end, when he was played, when his suspension was over or shortened or whatever, and they brought him back, and they started winning again with Lawrence in the game because he's a very special player. And then his life ended in a prison death. And people, what they said, when Lawrence Phillips goes to prison, it's not going to turn out well for him because he doesn't listen to authority. He doesn't respect other people. He expects you to do what he says, or you're going to be in trouble. Well, I guess when you go to prison, you're not an island unto yourself. You're part of a group. Maybe a small group, maybe a big group, but the group usually decides what happens, and the group has a leader. And if you're not the leader of the group, you do what the leader says, or you're going to be in trouble. Well, I guess you could say that Lawrence Phillips got into trouble. And his family tried to sue to find out what happened. How is it possible that he killed himself? in a locked jail cell. So here's another thing I was working on yesterday. Sometimes I have a little technical problem. I have to figure it out. And I had a technical problem again. Yesterday I had to update the BIOS of my machine. And I know when I do a BIOS update that everything gets reset. I knew that. So I sat down and reset everything. Everything checked out, worked great. Then I restart the machine for today's show and I have all these glitches. All over my screen. I thought, oh, this is not going to be good. So this looks like a graphics driver problem. So let me be brave. And reinstall my NVIDIA graphics driver. I did. It seemed to fix it. Took about 10 minutes. Restarted the machine, and now it looks like it's okay. Why it got messed up? I don't know. Because it didn't mess it up after I restarted after the BIOS update. So I created this yesterday because I need one of these when things go tragically wrong. And I need to fix something or put myself in an ugly position that I don't want to be on camera for. And I can leave this up for a little bit, like, hey, this is the old Indian head. Overnight we are no longer broadcasting on television. In the days before and after the rise of cable television, when TV stations went off the air from midnight to 6 a.m. So I can leave the mic on, I can leave the mic off, I can do all my dirty work, and no one can see me. Hey, Gordon's back. Question: what is Homer Simpson's favorite kind of bread? The answer is sourdough. Hashtag dad joke. I like that we're creating our own dad jokes. That's very fun. So we have our new Indian head test card, which I like very much. It will hide all the ugliness and probably some weeping and crying. Because when I use this for my weeping and crying, I'm still on. You can still see me, and I want it that way for the intermission, so people say, "Oh, there is a live camera. He's probably having a blood pressure event." And sometimes I use this, but then it's like, "Oh, now he's going to be doing chess, and it's going to be terrible." So I don't want to use that for technical difficulties. So I use this, not animated, but. At least it says the please stand by, which I like a lot. Hey, Gordon has some good news. I finally heard back from El Beyonce 2. We've never met the original El Beyonce, but El Beyonce 2 we know pretty well. And I did an interview via WhatsApp. I'm going to transcribe it and email it to you. Or do you have a better way to get it to you? Well, it depends what you want to do with it. If you're submitting it for use on the live show, you can email it to me. If you think it would make a Bowles Blogs article, then you can log into your Bowles Blogs account and do what you've always done in the past. Completely up to you. I, too, after you said you hadn't heard from Beyonce, I started getting worried. So I I DM'd her on Discord saying, "Are you okay?" Beyonce 2 has not replied to me. But I'm glad she replied to Gordon. That's very good. Now we know that she is of this world and of the living. Because our friend Beyonce 2 is going through a transition into a female body and a female life and is on medication to make that happen. And sometimes the medication can make people feel not very good. But if she's talking to Gordon, she's got to be top of the moon, which is terrific, terrific news. Now here's more about our student loan thing that is A solution, not a solution. Nobody's happy, which I guess is, the right answer. Because if everyone's happy, then it's not a good thing. And if some people are happy on one side and the other people are unhappy, well, the Republicans are just going to hate it. And they are hating it. And what I love is that the White House is finally fighting back. And as we've always said, when you're dealing with bullies, and these MAGA jerks are bullies, and they're punching you and hitting you, you got to punch them back. You got to hit them in the nose. Well, the White House was hitting yesterday. They weren't hitting the bullies in the nose. They were punching them in the throat with a sledgehammer. This is the White House. And here you go. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying it's so unfair that regular people, Harvard lawyers, are getting their student loans dismissed, and poor people, blah. And the White House says Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had $183,000 in PPP loans forgiven. And she's complaining about $10,000 for a few people to get a little bit of student loan relief. Delicious. Why haven't they been doing this from day one of the Biden administration? Representative Mike Kelly says asking plumbers and carpenters to pay off the loans of Wall Street advisors and lawyers isn't just unfair, it's bad policy. Posted via Fox News. And the White House replies, Congressman Mike Kelly had $987,000 in PPP loans forgiven. Matt Gaetz of Florida. Everyone knows that in a 60 billion plus European land war, it's always the last 3 billion that kicks in the door. Whatever that means, I have no idea what he's talking about. But the White House, I guess, does, and they replied very simply. Congressman Matt Gaetz had $482,000 in PPP loans forgiven. Now, how did I miss out on all these hundreds of thousands of free dollars in PPP loans? I don't know. But I wish I had figured it out a little earlier. Now let me update this because that was saved from yesterday. See if they're punching any more people on the throat. There were several. There were at least 5 or 6, but maybe they were a little bit earlier. But boy, that's the way that you handle these MAGA jerks. And yesterday Biden was out calling them out. These MAGA people are ridiculous. And he said regular Republicans, Democrats, and independents are just fine. It's the MAGA people who are the trouble in America. Beautiful. Oh, I hope he talks about that every single day. I don't know why he's been waiting, but maybe he's been waiting to get these wins in his pocket so they can't really come after him. But it was absolutely delightful. This is his student loan debt relief plan. 43 million borrowers are benefiting. 20 million have their loans completely canceled. 90% of relief dollars will be going to borrowers earning less than $75,000 a year. So there you go. Absolutely terrific. Well done, Joe Biden. Hey, have you heard about Trump? He's just kicking himself in the face, needlessly and beautifully. He's asked that the warrant, the affidavit, be unsealed and licked and chewed and torn up and thrown into the toilet. And the redacted version is coming out sometime between now and noon Eastern time. And here's lots of people are putting up these black things, but this is the funniest one. The United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, requested affidavit redaction. Donald J. Trump, whatever you think he did, It's always worse. And I like this because it's very funny, because it's not making an accusation about anything specific. It's just making a truthful statement of fact about who the man is, and it comes to thinking about moral character. And there's not much there. Absolutely delicious. And some people on Twitter just have the whole thing blacked out. Other people have other things that are just kind of nasty. But this, professional cartoonist, this from Columbia, Missouri, very interesting, red state, very funny, laughing. Gordon says it's delicious. Oh, it's so good. And the people who seem to know said there is no good that is going to come out of the revelation of this affidavit today. Nothing. We can hope. I mean, nothing good for Trump. And we can hope that that is actually what happens, that the DOJ is playing the Trump game and winning. Winning! And now we're taking a very first blood pressure break of the day, returning in a moment. And we are live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, here on Bowles.tv. It's BOLES .television.tv. Our VOD, video on demand, is at BOLES.live, which is our YouTube channel. And I'm not seeing our closed captions, which makes me a little nervous. Yes, now there they are. Okay, good. They're just a little bit slow. Aren't we all just a little bit slow? Checking my email and Twitter to see if anything's been released. They say the deadline is noon for the Trump affidavit, but it could be any minute now. So I guess we'll find out. So here's another interesting thing that I found really fascinating. Now that we live in a virtual world, excuse me, this was a little surprising to me. Scanning students' rooms during remote tests is unconstitutional. What? We've been living in a COVID world, an online world. And even when you see the online chess players, there are rules that I guess don't apply in this circumstance, but there are rules that you can't wear headphones because someone next to you might be feeding you information about your chess move. There are usually proctors in the room. Even virtual chess games, there's someone there physically watching the streamer. And they also have a second camera set up required to show not just your screen, but you at your screen. And that second camera has to show your workspace, both monitors, and if you have, chat up or other web browsers, you have to have all of that closed so you're not cheating. But is that constitutional? I don't know. I guess you can make whatever rules you want when you're running a chess tournament, but I guess not at a university. A federal judge this week sided with a student at Cleveland State University in Ohio, who alleged that a room scan taken before his online test as a proctoring measure was unconstitutional. I find it fascinating. The chemistry student sat for a test during his spring semester last year. Before the exam, he was asked to show the virtual proctor his bedroom. He complied, and the recording data was stored by one of the school's third-party proctoring tools, HonorLock. Then the student sued the university, alleging that the room scan violated his Fourth Amendment rights protecting a U.S. citizen against unreasonable searches and seizures. Well, now isn't that interesting? Because we have a president who's trying to make the same claim. Fourth Amendment claim, illegal. First, the FBI planted all of those things in Mar-a-Lago. Then Trump said, no, they're mine. If I took anything from the Oval Office, it was immediately declassified. Now, if that's the argument Trump's going to make, welcome to his own Supreme Court, because Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures is being deconstructed as we speak by his Supreme Court. Good luck. In its defense, Cleveland State argued that room scans are not searches because they are limited in scope, conducted to ensure academic fairness and exam integrity, and not coerced. And the judge said the student's privacy interest in his home outweighs Cleveland State's interest in scanning his room. Accordingly, the court determines that Cleveland State's practice of conducting room scans is unreasonable under the Fourth Amendment. I find that absolutely incredible. And if this goes to the Supreme Court, I have a feeling the student is going to lose. In December 2020, the Electronic Privacy Information Center filed a complaint against 5 popular proctoring services, including HonorLock, for their invasive and deceptive data collection practices. Fight for the Future, a nonprofit that created the website baneproctoring.com, called the decision a major victory. The scan of the student's room lasted no more than a minute and as little as 10 seconds. The defense argued, according to court documents, that the scan was brief, only revealed items in plain view, and that the student controlled the inspection to the extent that the student chose where in the house to take the exam and where in the room to direct the camera. I think that's a reasonable argument. The plaintiff was free to object to the scan, the defense added. A student who refused to perform the exam could still take the test, the school argued, even if opting out meant getting no credit for the exam. Now, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, sure, you can opt out. You get a 0, but your freedom's protected. That's the choice without a choice. And the judge did not agree. Room scans go where people otherwise would not, at least not without a warrant or an invitation. Nor does it follow that room scans are not searches because the technology is in general public use. Wow, that's big. That's very interesting. And when you take tests for graduate school, you usually have to go to a testing center. And they have cameras all over you. And they record your monitor. You're not allowed to take any kind of anything into the testing area. They give you a locker with a lock. So your phone, your bag, your coat, everything gets put in that locker and locked. And then you go into a room with 50 other people. They give you earplugs, you plug them in, and everything you do is monitored and watched, which I guess is okay because it's not your home, but it still feels very violated. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of those schools, if they did tests, they did those kind of tests at home. So did they, make you search your room, or did they just, waive the test requirement altogether? It's a very interesting topic. Hey, Gordon says, but they can't stop people from wearing rings that vibrate. Interesting. And give you Morse code messages from another room. Very interesting. I didn't even know about that. Of course, that would necessitate you knowing Morse code and having a ring that can receive instructions to vibrate remotely. Very, very interesting. I know there are some reports of students cheating with their Apple Watches or their smartwatches, where they either had notes written on their watch or their friends were texting them information on their watch. So now, just in regular schools, the teachers have to say, take off your watch and put it away. So everybody cheats. I remember when I was in junior high school, and this was very upsetting, and I didn't say anything, but there was a woman who had not studied for her Spanish test, and she was terrified. And one of my good friends, Rick, I was in this row, and Rick was in the row next to me, and the woman was sitting in front of Rick. And he sort of liked her, and everyone loved Rick. He was a nice guy. And right before the test started, she turned around and said, okay. And Rick nodded. And so it was a multiple choice test. A, B, and C were the only options, and you had to pick if you were selecting A as the answer, B as the answer, C as the answer. So I noticed, and I wasn't this was in Spanish class. I was not a great Spanish student. Rick spoke Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish. And now I realize, as I'm telling you this story, if I had been a little smarter, I kept my mouth shut, but if I'd been a little smarter, I could have done better. Because what Rick did with this woman is he took it was a pencil with a rubber eraser, and the teacher would give the question, and we had to, circle A, B, or C. And if the answer was A, I figured out, he would press her in the back one time, that's A. If the answer was B, 2 times, C, 3 times. And he did it very discreetly. I mean, I knew what was going on because I heard their conversation. But everyone else in the room had no idea that any of this was going on. And Rick did it very subtly. Like this was his desk, and she was right in front of him. It was a very tight room. And he would just very subtly circle A, and then poke her in the back. And the next one, it's C. And she'd write it down. Now that's genius cheating without any electronics involved. That's very smart. And it bothered me a lot. And if I had been more clever and probably less moral, I would have just written down all the answers he was giving her. But I wasn't sure if he was kind of messing with her, like every once in a while he'd give her one that was wrong so they didn't have the exact same answers. So I think my paranoia took over, and I just sat there and failed it all on my own. And Gordon says, and now they're married with 3 children. That's interesting. I don't know what happened to them. And now that when Rick was very, very smart, decided to play football his last year in high school, which I thought was very interesting. Interesting choice. And he could catch the football, and he ran very fast. And yes, Gordon is speculating. Making a dad joke somewhere in there. And then he was like the manager of Ward's automotive shop. Like Montgomery Ward used to have at least in Lincoln, Nebraska, an automotive shop where you could go and get your car fixed. Monkey Ward, as they called it. Montgomery Ward. You go in there and get new tires. And I had to go in there one thing, get it fixed. It was like, Rick. And he fixed my car. Fast. He charged me a little bit. But then I don't know what happened. I don't even know what happened to that. I don't even remember her name. She had very pale skin and, I think, red hair. I didn't know her very well. But he knew her, I guess. Or she had made some deal with him. I don't know. But Rick was the kind of guy, if you needed help, he would help you out, so. Well, I've been talking to our friend Igba about a lot of interesting things going on in Russia. Our friend Alexander has disappeared. I mean, disappeared in all the good ways and all the most horrible ways, in that he's been called up to fight for Ukraine. He's leaving his family behind. And I know he's busy. Gordon also said, at this auto place, did they treat men and women differently when bringing in their car? Oh, yes. 100,000 million %. And I know because I had a single mother. My mother was single, and she faced a lot of that discrimination, and she was also very tough. And there was a local place that was not too far from us that seemed to, like her. But I always had to go in there with her. And sometimes she would say, you tell them what's going on. You explain to them what you're seeing with the car. And there was my mother loved Fords. And there was a Ford dealership not too far away from us. So all of her life she had a Ford. A Fairmont, a Futura, a Mustang, and then she went Toyota in her later years. And we were in there shopping for cars, and she didn't know what kind of car to get, and the salespeople were not being very kind to her, and she'd go in there, and they would ignore her. And she was not one to be ignored. Gordon says, let me tell you how it is in 20 and 22 Orlando of Florida. Elizabeth of Florida, the wife of Commissioner Gordon, takes in a car for an oil change. They tell her all kinds of things that need fixing. But if I am there, suddenly the car is just fine and dandy. Yeah, it's disgusting. I remember I went in there for just myself, for an oil lube at one of those quick lube places. I had my girlfriend with me at the time, and it was, $19.99, full lube and blah, blah. I said, well, that's pretty good. I guess I need that for my car. So I went in there. Sure, $19.99. And then, oh no, I couldn't believe it. The guy who was working on my car came out and he had a little thing in his hand. This is a pineapple. This is a pineapple pin, but I give out to my friends. And it would look something like this. And he said, the lube is free, but we've discovered something with your shocks, and this little thing is worn out, and he had broken it off. It was a rubber stopper of something. And we have to fill it up, and, we want to fix it for you. We want to make sure your car is right. It's going to be $10. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's nice. They're looking, I didn't add, well, okay, $10, right? And it'll be for all 4 shocks, so it's going to be like $40. And I'm like, it's supposed to be $19.99 for a lube job, and now you just added $40 to replace a rubber stopper? But I didn't want trouble. I said, oh gosh, they have my car. It's up on a lift. They can cut something. They said, okay, I just want to get out of here and go. So the guy said, okay. He left. And I'm talking to my girlfriend. I said, oh, no. This is bad. They're going to rip us off. This is how they do it. And I was very naive because this is Lane, Nebraska. You really don't take advantage of people like that quite so obviously. And she didn't know what to do either. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, the guy comes in, something else, there's a wire that's out of place. We can reroute it for you. We can put, ties on it so it stays in place. And I told him, I said, I don't want trouble, but I came in here for $19 and I'm already at $60. And now with this thing, you're going to take me up to $120. It's supposed to be a 10-minute lube. That's what it says on the sign. And the permanent sign says $19.95. I just would like to get my car and go. Well, it's not safe now that we've recovered this. We might have to report you to the DMV, which I knew all was a lie. And I said, okay, why don't you, let's say, fix everything, $100. I'll pay it, but I really need to go to work. Wink, wink. I really need to go to work in 5 minutes. And the guy said, okay, I think we can make that happen. So I said, before you leave again, let's go over here to the front desk. The woman there was, writing everything, listening to our conversation. I'm sure probably sending him some kind of signal somehow about what was going on. I said, let's write it up. Like, give me a receipt so I can pay this while you're, doing the final fix on my car, lower my car so I can get out of here. And the guy went over, blah, 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 blah. I paid, he left, I got my car. Driving out, I said, boy, I feel like I escaped with my life to my girlfriend. And I have to admit that the car drove better. I mean, I driving out, I said, well, they did something. It's much smoother ride. But I thought, boy, that's a scam. How do you avoid that scam? They bring you in, they lowball you in on a special, and then they're going to find, 20 times the stuff that they think that you're going to get fixed. You're not going to get in and out easy. That's why you got to have somebody you can trust. And that's why when I found my friend Rick working at my Monkey Ward, I thought, well, that's good. If I ever have a problem, I know Rick's not going to rip me off because it's not in him to do that. Which is very shocking that he was the head of a motor pool replacement repair shop, because I don't know if you can have that job if you're a moral person, because the job is to find things wrong with the car and make people fix it. Gordon says, I once had a car problem that I couldn't explain, and I took it to the first place I could find as I was driving. And the guy popped open the hood and fixed it in a few minutes. I said, that was incredible. And he explained what needed fixing. I said, thank you so much. How much do I owe you? What do I owe you? He said, nothing. Just remember my name. His name was Joe Biden. No. Just remember my name. If it hadn't been some remote place, I surely would have. I am sure he was very successful in business for having that kind of standard. And that man's name was Warren Buffett. Joe Biden's funnier, but Buffett makes more sense. And are we tired of hearing about Warren Buffett all the time in the news? The Oracle of Omaha. All he does is buy oil stocks and ruin the planet. And oh my gosh, we all want to be like Warren Buffett. And as a fellow Nebraskan, I'm a little sick of hearing about Warren. I mean, you got all that money, spread it around a little bit. Go pay off Scott Frost so we can get a football coach who knows what he's doing. So wrapping up the story about my mother. So we were in there, once every 10 years getting a new car. And no one would give her attention. Iden Gordon says, and he hates cryptocurrency and NFTs. I understand that. And no one would wait on her because she's a woman. And I'm there, I don't know, 13 maybe. Finally, she just goes into one of the salesman offices, and his name was Ron, I remember, an old bald guy, and said, will you help me? And she said, okay. And we went out there and looked at cars, came back, couldn't decide. The next day we went back, we drove around, couldn't decide. And I said to her, look, you're making them crazy with coming and looking at these cars. You can't make up your mind. You take a test drive and you don't know if you like it or not. And then you can't do that. That's not how this works. You have to go in there. That's why, the old stereotype is when a salesman sees a man and a woman separately coming in, they know the woman is there to think about it and window shop. And the guy is in there, he's made the decision, hurry up, here's my money, I'm leaving. That's why salesmen stereotypically prefer to wait on men than women, because women, as the story goes, can't make up their mind, which is not true. But I am that way. I want to go. When I've made my decision to buy something, I'm going in to buy it and I'm leaving. I don't want to see 10 things. I don't care what color it is. I just want the price out. So I think this was like the third day. We were shopping for a car. We went in there and she could make up her mind again and we were leaving. And then one of the salesmen said to her, and it was obviously a test and a bet that they had going on, and I was embarrassed that I was even in the room. As my mother was leaving, one of the salesmen said, any car on the lot, $1, but you have to pay me right now. And if you step out that door, because she was leaving, the deal's off. And my mother paused and walked out the door. And as we were leaving, I looked over my shoulder, and all the salesmen in there were laughing, and I knew why. And my mother, humiliated, got in the car and drove home, and I think the next day she went back and bought a car. Not for $1. Oh, if she had only turned around and thrown it right back in their face, and she just said, deal. Then what? Because that was absolutely 100% a legitimate offer. But they also 100% knew that she wasn't going to take it. Because they knew exactly who she was and what she was doing. And now we're taking our next blood pressure break, returning in a moment. And we're back. Back from break. Here on Bowles TV. BOLES on television, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow is Jana Marie Sweetheart, 11 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. Join her for a show that is in American Sign Language, no sound, but also typed text. Gordon says, doing data entry as I do here at Weill Cornell, I enter the education information for new faculty. And it's interesting to see the path some people take. This person I'm working on got a BA in liberal arts, then an MFA in fiction writing. And then 3 years after getting that, decided to go for an MD from Columbia and got it. And now they teach at Weill and MSKCC Life. Very interesting. As I've said, we don't have one life. We have 100 lives. And I know that there are some people, some students I know, that don't ever want to leave school. Some of them for personal reasons, some of them for cultural reasons. One student I had was getting her MA, was it the MS? MPH, Masters in Public Health. And she happened to be Indian. And she was older, but as long as she was in school, she wasn't going to be pressured by her family to get married and have kids, because education was important. So she told me her plan was to get an MFA, MPH, Masters of Public Health. She was my student. Then, after that, she had this all planned out. She was going to go into an MD program, which would be about 8 years, she said. Finish that, have her MA, add a PhD, which a lot of MDs do, actually. They add a PhD. So that adds another couple of years. So 10 years. Then when she was done with that, she was going to go get her JD degree so she could have a law degree. That was about 3 years. And then when she was done with that, she was going to go get and she was absolutely serious. She had it all planned out. Get a second PhD in journalism. So she could write about the culmination of public health, medicine, the law, and journalism all together. I think all mapped out, it was like 22 years, which would make her about, mid-40s, I guess, which, as I understand it, kind of takes her out of the realm of trying to get married off, because then you're, I guess, considered unmarriable and you just live your own life miserably by yourself, which she was absolutely delighted to do, but it got her family off her back, and she was so talented and so smart that she, so far, didn't have to pay 1 penny of her education. Schools are bidding for her. So she's thinking to herself, well, that's great. I can push off my family. I can get a lot of degrees. I don't have to pay for any of it. And I'll just keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And then I guess the theory was, is if she found the love of her life, then she could just stop or have a family, have kids if she wanted, and then go back to school, or just stop because she had enough degrees. Very interesting stuff. And then there was another friend of mine who did not ever want to leave school. He got 2 BAs. He got a PhD. And then he went and got a JD degree, a law degree. All of this credentialism. And now he's teaching at a major university in Texas, and I guess very conservative and very red, which is a little disappointing because he was raised super liberal. But hey, I guess that's the way it goes. Now, I, over the break, realized that the place that gave me all of that hellacious trouble back in Lincoln, Nebraska, the $20 lube job that went bad, it was Jiffy Lube. And I used to do commercials for them. And if I had been a little bit smarter, I would have said, look, you guys, I do commercials for you every weekend. Don't keep coming in here and adding stuff. It doesn't make me very happy. And here you go right here. You can redeem the National Jiffy Lube coupon. Oh, at any location. If you search for your nearest Jiffy Lube, we can show you more service coupons and oil change deals specific for your area. Don't go for the coupon. That's how they get you in. Oh, and look at these one. See, this is who they want to go in. They don't want me to go in there and tell them I have to go to work in 5 minutes. They want women to go in there. And they can tear apart their car and tell them all these things they need to fix. At least that was my experience. I hear something in the living room. I wonder if I left the window open. Now it's the time for me to use my new screen as I return in 1 second. And I'll leave the audio on just so you can see the fun, hear the fun. Meow. Yep. Oh, dumbo. All right, so I did it. Left the window open, and the construction people are yelling, and I can hear it. Maybe you can't hear it, but I can hear it. But it's taken care of now. And hey, on break, I got an email from the Louisville Vegan Jerky Co. Now, a lot of people say Louisville, but for people who are in Louisville, it's pronounced Louisville. Just like Syracuse, New York, is pronounced Syracuse, New York. I only know this because I've been corrected by people who live in those places. Beatrice, Nebraska, is pronounced Beatrice, which is the most ridiculous of all of them, because nobody pronounces Beatrice as Beatrice, except people in Nebraska. Somebody pronounced it wrong all those years ago, and it just stuck. But Louisville jerky is vegan, very delicious. Tends to be, for me, a little spicy. If you want a delicious, non-spicy vegan jerky, the Beyond Meat Original Jerky, fantastic. I gotta look that one up too. I just had some the other day. Whoops. And you can get it on Amazon, a one-serving pack. Oh, I don't like all these things that pop up like this, because then I can't get rid of it. The hey. Oh, I can send to cookies. Okay, is that what this is? How do I get rid of this? Walmart. It's not happening. It's not working. Amazon. They don't let me know. There you go. It's terrific. But Louisville is a little more elite. It's very wet. So if you would like the Beyond Jerky's like regular jerky that we grew up with, very tough, very hard to chew. The Louisville jerky is very soft and moist and extremely delicious. But for my taste, a little too hot. They just won't make a jerky that isn't spicy. See, the smoked black pepper, buffalo dill, smoky Carolina barbecue it's hot. Perfect pepperoni. And then they do limited editions that are very fun as well. And it's all cruelty-free, and they're a local company. I mean local as in regular people, not a big, massive company. So we were talking to our friend Igba about this terrible war in Russia. And our friend Alexander, as I said previously, before I got distracted, is sort of not communicating much now because I know he's getting ready to go to the front. And I know things are ramping up and it's going to get very ugly and it's going to be a long-term thing. And I asked our friend Igba, who is a young, attractive gentleman living in a beautiful, beautiful place in Russia, what are you going to do if Putin starts knocking on your door, as he has been, offering you money, but then the knock says, come with us now? What are you going to do? And he said, well, if there's a draft, gathering up all my friends, and we're moving back to Georgia. Not the United States Georgia, that Georgia. So when I saw this article, Putin orders a sharp expansion of Russia's hard-hit armed forces, I got a little nervous. And there was something in this article that really rang a bell for me in my gut that made me contact my friend Igba. Amid those demands for aggressive action and the Kremlin's insistence that the fighting is going according to plan, analysts have been struggling to game out Mr. Putin's next move. Is he preparing to increase the intensity of the campaign, maintain it at its current pace, or look for a very special way to end the war? Most Russia analysts acknowledge that trying to predict Mr. Putin, a former Soviet KGB officer who spent most of the pandemic cloistered even from his closest advisors, is a speculative challenge that rarely involves much evidence to assess. But Thursday's decree about expanding the size of the army suggested that Mr. Putin was prepared to continue the war, although it was unclear how the military would achieve its goal. The Kremlin has insisted that only contract soldiers and volunteers are part of the Russian force fighting in Ukraine, continuing to refer to the war only as a special military operation. Men from occupied areas of Ukraine have been pressed into service, however, and reports have emerged of Russian conscripts being sent to the front. Mr. Putin has not declared any kind of large-scale draft, despite frequent predictions from analysts and Western officials that he would have to make such a move in order to replace soldiers who were killed or injured. Analysts said Mr. Putin's decree enlarging the army does not necessarily augur a new draft, something the Kremlin has apparently tried to avoid in order to maintain a sense of normalcy for much of Russia's population. Instead, they said the military would increase the number of young men who are conscripted at any given time for their mandatory year of service. So I asked Igba about this. I said, what are you going to do? It sounds like they're going to start, they need bodies. And this is what my friend Igba said. And I'm reading this because I'm not allowed, I don't want to share what he actually wrote because maybe there's stuff in there that might get him in trouble. And his reply was this: there is a lot of military here, but he, Putin, doesn't want to use the more elite troops. Some people I know are in the military, but they were not forced to go to war. Putin collects cannon fodder, and there are also a lot of people from the former Ukraine of the DNR, the Donetsk People's Republic, and LNR, Lushansk People's Republic, also in Ukraine. In Russia, they go to the apartments and try to lure in non-professionals by promising them big money. It's just for the numbers. Such people die very quickly there. They do not fulfill their obligations. Putin is lying. And while he is afraid of people to do a more explicit mobilization, because ordinary people are against the war, Putin is afraid of the people of Russia. So that's very interesting. Because we see on TV a lot of people in Russia, oh, we love the war. Oh, we can't wait to bring home Ukraine. And Igba on the ground in Russia says that's not true. People who know what's going on don't want any part of it. They don't understand why it's happening. They don't see a need for a reunification of Ukraine in any meaningful way. So I guess he's confident that he doesn't have to make a move yet. But I get the feeling that things are happening in Russia. He needs bodies, but I guess when you go after the elites, the people who don't need Putin, and you go after their children to put them in a war, that's going to be trouble for Mr. Putin. But he needs bodies. He needs cannon fodder, as Igba said. And where is he going to get that? Well, now it's time for our next blood pressure break. Then we're going to come back, talk about doppelgangers and vegan Taco Bell. Returning in a moment. And we are back from break. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv, television, live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, we told a little dad joke, kind of break things up. I've just written a song about a tortilla. Well, it's more of a rap, really. Now, a rap is a song. I'm not sure that's quite clear enough. We're having a hard time with our dad jokes today. I've just written a song about a tortilla. Well, it's more of a rap, really. The song is the wrong word. It needs to be, I've just written a polka, I've written a rock tune, I've written a country song. Then it makes sense to say, well, it's more of a rap, really. I guess I'm being too picky. Now, before we jump into vegan Taco Bell, this is just another fascinating article. Putin people who go against the Putin have a habit of falling out of places, falling off of buildings to their death, leaping into the abyss, which makes their deaths very suspicious. And here's another one. A Putin critic fell from a building in Washington. Was it really a suicide? Police say they don't suspect foul play, but fellow activists are incensed, and the city where it happened is barely paying attention. I haven't even heard about this, and usually you hear about these strange deaths of Putin allies. The mysterious death last week of prominent critic of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine in Washington's West End neighborhood is drawing fury from some of the Kremlin's best-known global detractors. But scant notice in Washington, where police say they don't suspect foul play, was behind Dan Rappaport's fall from a luxury apartment building on the night of August 14. I mean, right there, a fall. It really doesn't happen that often. And when the person falling as a critic of Putin, it seems pretty obvious what's going on. According to Metropolitan Police Department, officers responding to a call about a jumper found the 52-year-old Rappaport's body on the sidewalk. He was wearing orange flip-flops, a black hat, had a cracked phone, headphones, and $2,620 in cash, but no wallet or credit cards. Right there. That's bizarre. The hat wearing is especially strange. I'm going to leap to my death wearing flip-flops and a hat. The deceased was no mere exile, a Latvian-born U.S. citizen. Rappaport moved back to the U.S. in 2012 after making a fortune in Moscow, but running afoul of the Russian government. So he settled in Washington, made a lot of money. Nothing adds up, says David Satter, a longtime Moscow correspondent in Soviet and post-Soviet times, who in 2013 became the first U.S. reporter booted from Russia since the Cold War. The death has been a major subject of coverage overseas, but is oddly off the radar in Washington. And you have to wonder why. What's going on? Rappaport's wife denied the story about a suicide note, and the suicide, saying her husband had been making plans and she expected to be in Washington to see him. I've talked several times to him, his widow said, and she is absolutely certain that it's not a suicide. And the case for suspicion involves some more practical questions. What's up with the wad of cash? Why would Rappaport have been making plans for the next few days? Why was he wearing a hat? Very bizarre. It sounds like someone broke into his home, surprised him, and threw him over the railing. He was not suicidal. He was making plans for the future, plans for the next week and the week after. It's not someone who's planning on jumping to their death would do. And so the plot thickens. And that's what you do in Russia. Or outside of Russia. If you're not for Putin, you're against Putin. And therefore, you're going to find yourself having an untimely death on the ground after you allegedly leap to your demise. Now, finishing up today, hey, it's Taco Taco, Taco Taco, Taco Taco, Taco Bell. That was their jingle for a long time. Come to Taco Taco, Taco Taco, Taco Taco, Taco Taco, Taco Bell. This reporter went to Taco Bell's test kitchen and tried its new plant-based protein. It was one of the best fast food meals I've ever had. Now, the rumors about Taco Bell's meat is, for many years, that it's never been really meat. It's been a lot of fillers with maybe a little bit of meat. There was a big rumor 3 or 4 years ago that there was a lot of soy in the Taco Bell meat, that it wasn't really meat. And you can eat vegetarian and vegan. Gordon says, oh, that Washington. I was thinking of Washington State for a moment. Yeah, this was Washington, D.C. And there are lots of guides how to eat vegan, vegetarian at Taco Bell. They have a veg menu. The potatoes are back. Very vegan, very delicious. And if you do it right, you can kind of like make your own vegan taco with potatoes. And it's surprisingly delicious. But this is insider stuff. I visited Taco Bell's California headquarters in August, where I got the chance to sample a plant-based protein on the new crispy melt taco. Taco, 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 Taco Bell. The crispy melt taco can be purchased with either classic beef or the plant-based protein. So the Taco Bell team presented them to me head-to-head to see if I could tell the difference. The taco comes with a fried white corn tortilla, 3 kinds of shredded cheese, nacho cheese sauce, lettuce, tomatoes, and sour cream. None of that vegan, but it's okay. Slow progress, you can make choices, you can have them make it to your own desire. I could tell the difference between the tacos, but it wasn't the plant-based one that was inferior. The plant-based protein wasn't meant to be indistinguishable from Taco Bell's signature beef, but equally craveable, according to Taco Bell Director of Global Nutrition. It looks a little messy for an industrial taco. The protein, which is made of a soy and pea blend, was a bit spicier, always. I don't know why they do it that way. You go to Chipotle, you go for the chorizo, you go for the sofritas, it burns your mouth and is very salty. It was spicier than Taco Bell's usual beef, with a little more of a kick. I don't know who wants to eat and be kicked, but I guess a lot of people do, because that seems to be the trend. It is certified vegan by the American Vegetarian Association. Although I'm not a vegan, so I enjoyed it with cheese and the sour cream. Now, who wants to be certified vegan by a vegetarian association? That deserves its own story. Taco Bell also let me sample this new protein on Nachos Bel Grande, where it added a pleasant extra dimension of flavor to the classic nacho format. And Gordon says people know spicy foods kick up their metabolism, and that's a nice thing to know. Okay. There's obviously something going on, because everything is spicy if you're vegan. So this is the plant-based protein right there. And all the rest of that stuff is not really vegan. I guess this is the Nachos Bel Grande. The protein can be substituted into anything on the menu. So I also tried it on one of my personal favorites, the Crunchwrap Supreme, which is this thing. It reminded me something between the regular beef and chorizo because of the moist texture and the layers of flavor. Very, very sexy. I was really impressed with the plant-based dishes, which Taco Bell says is the latest innovation following tests of the Cravetarian pea and chickpea protein last year, which I don't think ever made it into production, at least not locally. I like all the photos, though. This is a very good informational article. And so as Brittany Chang was impressed by the Cravetarian program at the time, but Taco Bell seemed to have taken the last year to up its in-house plant-based recipes, which I guess we're seeing here. Must be nice to be invited to go to Taco Bell headquarters and have fun. The Taco Bell team is clearly thinking about other ways to use these new menu flavors and suggests that we try off-menu options like the new protein and spicy potato taco. Yes! That's how it looks. I think the new dish adds another layer of dimension to Taco Bell's available flavors, and it could work really well in other combinations, like with black beans. I like that too. The black beans are vegan and extremely delicious. The fried white corn tortilla was also a great addition, and I'll happily try other Taco Bell concoctions in the show. The chain is pursuing a plant-based proteins on several fronts, with Beyond Meat collaboration coming by the end of the year. Now, why? I don't know. If you have your own beef protein from plants, why do you need Beyond? I don't quite understand that. Unless Beyond is going to sell the Taco Bell meat. That could be. The plant-based meat menu items have had mixed results in fast food. The Impossible Whopper reportedly boosted Burger King sales, but the McDonald's U.S. McPlant test concluded without any concrete plans for nationwide expansion. Bad news. McDonald's has never really been big on a veggie burger or a vegan burger. They just really, they don't want to do it. McDonald's is testing McPlant in the U.S. It's a terrible name. No one wants to eat a McPlant burger. They could be creative. KFC, Del Taco, Starbucks, and other major chains have already launched their own plant-based menu items, primarily through collaborations with Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat, and they've been very successful, by the way. Taco Bell has long been known as the fast food destination for vegans and vegetarians thanks to bean and potato options. Very true. And they're very accommodating. They're actually very nice about it. In 2019, Taco Bell of the North Americas, President Joey Feliciano, publicly said the chain was relying on its own vegetarian options instead of creating new plant-based meat substitutes. Gordon says their fries still aren't okay. McDonald's, yeah. People are not happy with the fries. Well, growing up, the McDonald's fries were the best thing you could ever have in your entire life. And then I guess they changed from beef tallow to peanut oil or something, and everybody got upset, and all the change was made, and they weren't crunchy anymore. They were just gross. And when I grew up, they were delicious, crunchy, golden French fries. And every French fry I've seen from McDonald's since then has been pale white and soggy. I don't know what happened. Gordon says the fries still have beef somewhere in there somehow. Well, that's interesting. Maybe they tried to put some of the beef taste back. But my mother's boyfriend at the time, 10, 15 years ago, was infuriated that McDonald's had ruined their fries by not frying them in beef tallow anymore. And was sort of tangentially blaming me and Jana Marie for that change. And we stood by it. We said, hey, it's better for you. Clearly, the chain's thinking has changed after the taste test. I'm excited to see what other plant-based dishes Taco Bell will come up with, and I'll definitely order it again. These are the potatoes with sour cream and gooey cheese. It looks delicious, but not vegan, in case you care. I didn't expect to have one of the best fast food meals of my West Coast trip and my life, but I did. Well, that is praise and hyperbole at the same time. That's effective. For now, the Crispy Melt Taco and new protein are only available at select Birmingham, Alabama locations until they run out. Meow. That makes me sad. I would like to try. And there's the final picture of the final Taco Bell taco. Well, hey, it's Friday. End of the road, end of the show. We'll talk about doppelgangers on Monday. Hey, Gordon also says, Five Guys better than McDonald's. In-N-Out better than McDonald's. I read a review of In-N-Out, and somebody was very disappointed that it didn't meet the hype. I've never eaten an In-N-Out, so I don't know. Gordon also says Shake Shack are the best. Got to find it all out. Burger I.M., which has gone out of business, used to be right across the street from us. I guess an Israeli fast food company, filed for bankruptcy in December, and then our store held on until a couple of months ago. They had Impossible Burgers that were completely vegan with everything on it and the most amazing taste you could ever have. And now they're out and they're gone. Very disappointing. Now you have to make my own. But they were expensive, like 2 of their deluxe Impossible Burgers with maybe fries, $32. That's a lot to me. For 2 burgers and fries, too much. So we've had a wonderful week of show. I thank you so much for being here. We do hope that Nebraska will win tomorrow, but who knows? Gordon says Trader Joe has plenty of plant-based burger options. Well, that's good to know. I did not know that. Did you know that, Jana? Now that's interesting. You type her name, and up comes this announcement, which must be on a timer. Because to get that, you have to type exclamation point, Jana. And it mysteriously came up by itself, which I find fascinatingly wonderful. Talk about excellent timing. Gordon has it today. Wow. Fabulous. And she's here, live on Bowls.tv tomorrow, 11 a.m., Sunday, 11 a.m. So we do hope the Huskers win tomorrow in Ireland. I wonder how Jana feels about dinosaur nuggets by Impossible. We have not tried that. So that really was good timing. So what it was timing. And we don't get the timers. When she does her show, because there's a lot of chat, the timers are always firing like every 5 minutes, which is a bit intrusive, but that's the way it is. We don't get a lot of timers because we don't have a lot of chat going on, because they have to have a certain amount of lines of chat within a certain period of time before the timer will fire and put it up there. So we've done something right today. But we have tried the Beyond Meat chicken nuggets, which are our absolute favorite. And they cook really, 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 really fast. And they say do not overcook them because you won't like them. So we cook them, it's like 6 minutes. It's very good. So we're going to have to look for the Impossible. We've not seen the Impossible chicken nuggets anywhere yet. Whole Foods seems to be a Beyond Burger place. So we have to figure out, sometimes you have to order direct from Impossible here. But then they pack it in the dry ice. And then it gets here in 2 days, and then, depending on the weather, everything's usually melted, and then they have to resend. It's a big problem. So if you have any questions or comments, you can email me, david@bowls.tv. Have any questions for Jana? She is Jana@bowls.tv. Or on Twitter, @DavidBowles. Super follows to follow. Alexander is a super follower, although he's missing in action. I don't want to say missing in action. I don't think he's in action yet. He is not around, understandably. On Facebook, we're just regular old BOLES. On Instagram, Bowles Books. TikTok, Bowles TV. Gordon says, hey, signing out from Winter Garden, Florida. Thanks for having us. And I say, hey, we'll see you in a day or two and have new ideas for you. And join our Discord server, which is where we put all the fun stuff. And my new command, social, which is everything that I just said, but now it's also typed in chat. So it's been a wonderful week, action-packed and delightful. And next week, we will have more of the same. So I hope you have a great wake-up, a nice nap, a good restful time, and when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and pea protein. I'll see you on Monday.